We want to bring in Hannah Trudeau now to talk more about the Republican response. Hannah is senior political correspondent from our partners at The Hill. All right, Hannah, thank you so much for being with us. You know, we are waiting to hear this Republican response, so it's really kind of a pre-response, if you will. What will we hear from Representative McCarthy tonight?
Yeah, that's right, Nicole. Representative McCarthy is expected to sound like somebody who is gunning to be the next Speaker of the House. And that's, of course, if Republicans take back the lower chamber, which they are expected to do. Now, he's looking to make the argument that when President Biden made the remark about MAGA Republicans being, quote, semi-fascist, he is looking to say that the president of the country is trying to turn the next midterm elections in November into a referendum on President Trump, while he and the Republican Party in Congress is expected to turn the midterms into a referendum on some of the critical issues facing the nation, namely inflation, which we've mentioned at the top of the hour is a sky-high rate, gas prices, crime. These are issues that really ignite the Republican Party. And so we can expect to hear McCarthy make some of those arguments and draw a very stark contrast, not just between the president's recent rhetoric and turning up the sort of Democratic base in his favor, but to really hit the president on the policies that ignite the Republican Party.
Well, Hannah, you know, the president has said, you know, he would be the unifier in chief. Can the president say anything tonight that would actually unify both sides at this point?
Yeah, well, that remains to be seen. I mean, one thing that tends to unify folks across the country is results. And so there's a difference between results and rhetoric. Now, the rhetoric that we heard from President Biden back when he was on the campaign trail, vying for the nomination and ultimately the presidency, was that of unity. I mean, this is his bread and butter. This is his comfort zone, that he likes to sort of talk in broad generalities about the state of the nation and restoring democratic norms and principles back to the country. But in terms of unifying, the reason that voters have in recent days and weeks shown an uptick in his approval rating is largely because of some of those bigger legislative accomplishments. So I think that, you know, he would be wise to tout those accomplishments, and he's expected to based on some of the excerpts that we've seen, and rather than sort of just double down on that faction of the party that even some Democrats think is alienating.
Well, let's go back to that semi-fascist comment. You know, the White House today clarifying that the president was referring to MAGA lawmakers, not MAGA voters. But is it possible to promote unity, you know, when part of your message seemingly calls out tens of millions of American voters?
Yeah, I think that was interesting to see sort of the walk back. I mean, I think one thing that the White House is grappling with is differentiating the lawmakers in Congress who President Biden has in recent days and weeks really sought to call out, you know, by name, which is a departure from the sort of, you know, my friends across the aisle tone that we've seen from him in the past. But he's realizing, and as the midterms grow closer and closer in November, that he has to distinguish between the lawmakers who he is in many cases competing against directly here within his own party, and the voters who he will have to rely on for, especially in some of these critical swing states, in order to tip the scales in Democrats' favor and have them maintain the House and Senate.
All right, Hannah Trudeau from our partners at The Hill, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.